Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before. This is Gabnet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Connect to life.
We do have several listeners online tonight who are either dealing with parents who have Alzheimer's or who have dealt with that and are now past the final stage.
Connect to love.
Hey, Dad, that was so creepy that you told Melissa that you had sex in 8 years.
I don't know what's
and
wrong
you should.
with
It was
my
like
life.
deer in the headlights, blink, like.
Oh my God! No wonder he didn't show up to the parade afterwards. He was embarrassed.
Connect to happiness.
Bumping and bumping, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you really were.
cow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes
windows-
you just have to do that.
Yes.
There we
To
go.
blow it out sometimes.
Yeah. Like a Brazilian blowout was a Cuban blowout going on over there. That's going to put it out there for you people.
Connect with Connections, a nightly feature of Gabnet. Join hosts Melissa Fox, Linda Nunez, Porn Star Pete, abetted by Lizzie Say What, and Mr. Punchline as they engage in a lively 2-hour romp that is bound to keep you happy and, yes, connected. Each show tackles a lifestyle or relationship topic relevant to people interested in improving themselves, dealing with the ups and downs of life, and those interested in spicing up their relationships. The gang, along with special guest hosts, share stories and connect the topics with humor to current events in entertainment, politics, culture, and even sports. So get connected, Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern and Tuesday through Friday at 1 a.m. It's Connections, here on Gabnet. Talk like you've never heard it before. Talk like you've never heard it before is now Talk like you've never seen it before. Alex Bennett's Ramble is now in video. Log on to Alex's Facebook page at facebook.com/abennett every Tuesday through Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern and experience the Citizen Panel like never before. We put a face to people like Phil, Patrick, Renee, Kevin, Tony, Jeff, Bree, Brian, and all of our regulars. And Alex is there too, in his PJs. Just be glad he isn't naked. You can be one of those people who gets seen and not just heard by calling into Skype. For more information on how to Skype us, just go to gabnet.net. You can dress any way you want, provided it's decent. Gabnet is now not just talk and not just a pretty face. So why don't you add yours?
Hi everybody, this is Alex Bennett, and I've had a long and interesting trip. It's called life. And for years, people have demanded that I write a book about it, and while I've been a writer, my main talent has always been that of a broadcaster. Over a year ago, I decided not to write the book, but using my best skill, I decided to tell it. It's called Life in the Passing Lane, and I described it as an audio biography. It's presented in 30-minute chapters, so it's easy to binge listen. And you can access it on the Gabnet page by clicking on Life in the Passing Lane and going to a page with every single episode, plus some extras. If you want to access it on your mobile device, that's easy too. It's on iTunes. It's Life in the Passing Lane, an audio biography by me. I'm Alex Bennett.
Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before. This is Gabnet, the Great American Broadcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Alex Bennett and this is the Ramble. Yes, it's that little time we get together each and every night and we talk with our citizens panel, which we'll do in about 25 minutes from right now. But as we do once a week, we like to check out an old friend of ours.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how to introduce him other than to say, if you're an unhappy person today, if life is not treating you well, the positive outlook of Larry Bubbles Brown will certainly make your day, or make you take the gun to your mouth again. Anyway, hello, Bubbles. How are you?
The master of disaster.
Master of disaster. Yeah.
By the way, you gave me a line last time that absolutely killed on stage at the Throckmorton.
What was it?
You said I was changing my name from Bubbles to El Fomo. So I tried that. Got a huge laugh.
El Fomo? Did I say that?
That was you, yeah. El Fomo.
Got a huge laugh. Well, good. I don't remember saying it.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'm going to keep it, yeah.
You know, I never was a comedian. I never did stand-up, mainly because it frightened the crap out of me to think of doing stand-up. I mean, it just, I don't understand how you've gone your whole life doing this thing which, if you have no self-esteem, certainly robs you of that self-esteem even more.
Yeah, when it doesn't go well.
So I never became a comic, but so I did radio show every day, and I would say some funny stuff. I was capable of being funny. I listened to old tapes of myself, and I was very, very good. But I have probably created more material than any stand-up comic in my lifetime, just improvising every day as I would talk and do stuff like that,
Yeah, and I think that's when the best stuff comes out, when you're just talking and it's natural.
But if I sat there and said, oh, this was a good line, and that's a good line, and this is a good line, and then I put them all together in an act, I would probably suck. Because I was doing it for the outlet that I was doing it on, which was radio. Entirely different form of show business, as it were. So how have you been, Bubs?
Good. I just been nothing exciting. I was supposed to go back to Ohio, but I don't know if I can see some old friends or not.
Yeah. What would you do?
We were talking about what a pain it is to travel anymore. Just going through the airport with taking the shoes off and all that crap. I just can't stand it.
Yeah. Well, my wife went to China, and she.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah. Well, she goes there once a year. And I've taken that trip. It's funny.
15 hours?
You hear about like 15 hours on a plane, and you go,
God.
How do I do that? Well, the pilot's doing it. How do you do it? And I found that 15 hours flew by. So to speak, a little pun there, flew by. It went by rather fast.
Did you go, were you first class? Or?
No, I was coaching on China Air, I think it was.
So it was crammed in?
No, it was fairly decently spacious. Didn't feel like, you couldn't move your legs, things like that. But what I found is I took like a Xanax and put myself to sleep. So I slept about 6 hours, 7 hours. And before you go to sleep, they say we're going to be feeding you. So you're waiting for your meal. And I'm watching movies on my iPhone and things like that. And one thing and another. Next thing I know, I'm in China. Yeah.
Jesus. Well, see, Rob Schneider wanted to take me to Australia, but I couldn't stand a flight that long.
You probably, it's a lot faster than you think because they know you're on that plane for 12 hours, okay? And that you need to be entertained somehow. So, you got movies and you've got, like I bring an iPad and I stuff it up full of movies to watch. And I do that for girlfriend. She has this little thing that she bought called SanDisk. And it takes, I can't remember how many movies we put on there, but I put a lot of movies on there for her. And then she goes on the plane and she turns it on, and it automatically comes up as a Wi-Fi channel on her iPad. And then she just simply picks that, and then she can watch all the movies she wants to with it. So, yeah.
Well, that would help, but that's still a long time to be cramped up. Ugh.
Yeah, well, she gets the extra, what do you call it, comfortable seat. In other words, even in coach, you can pay a little extra for, like she's forced to travel coach by her company, okay, because she's not a big enough executive to do it the other way, right? So that's for starters. So she then orders up a seat which is called extra comfy or something. It's got more leg room, better service, everything. So.
Well, you know, they take, talking about the pilot, they take 2 flight crews in those flights. So.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, what, you want the same pilot flying your plane for 15 hours? By the time he gets there, he's really woozy, you know.
Yeah.
Well, they don't fly those planes anyway.
Pretty much. Yeah,
They're just there in the cockpit to make you feel good.
Right.
Because if you heard there wasn't anybody in the cockpit, you'd go, oh boy, you know. But they don't need anybody in the cockpit because the things fly themselves automatically, and they land automatically now too.
Yeah, although the pilots usually do hands-on on the landing.
No, I don't think as much as you think. You know, it's robots running the plane, Bubs. How's your fear of technology now? Let's get you on 2 things you hate most in the world: automation
yeah.
and airplanes.
Do you want windows flying your...
Now, but you fly, don't you?
I do fly, yeah.
I thought you didn't like flying. I thought you.
I don't. The fear of flying is pretty much over. I don't like it. Just getting through security and being on. The planes are so crowded now. I don't like that. So.
Yeah, it's not. It used to be. Okay, when I first went on airlines, it was like fancy schmancy time.
Oh yeah, it used to be great.
People would dress up to fly.
People dressed up. Yeah.
Guys would get into suits to fly.
Uh-huh.
And you go, well, why would they do that? Well, because it was considered a luxury. It was considered fancy to fly. And so you do I sound old, folks? You would get on a plane, you would be all dressed up. You didn't wear jeans or whatever. And then they would start serving you food, and the food was delicious. It was wonderful. They didn't have movies in those days, though. The movies came in, God, I'm trying to remember when. But I think maybe...
I think in the 60s they would have, they had a screen at the front of the cabin where you'd watch the same movie.
And then they had an overhead projector. They loaded it with film. You ready for that? Remember kids' film? Have you heard of film? They loaded it with film, and then on some of the flights you'd be on, the film would break. And nobody on the plane, nobody working the plane knew how to fix it. So they then say, oh, we'll give you your money back for the movie. You know. And if it was a widescreen movie, it was like pan and scan. You know, so times have changed, folks. Now you're getting on a plane and you got all the movies you want, and you can dress any way you want, and they treat you like shit. Really?
Pay. I mean, there's no free food anymore.
You know, just next time you're on a flight, if you're unhappy with it, say, who do I complain to? And they'll say, if you start complaining, we're throwing you off the plane.
We're going to have you arrested when we land.
Do you remember the time that I was going to New York, and I can't remember what for. I think I was just going on vacation, and I was going to get on the plane, and this was a time when all these planes were having long waits before they took off. Do you remember that period of time?
Yeah,
where it was just notorious, and so I'm supposed to go on this flight, and it's just not taking off. And nobody's telling us when it's going to take off. Your flight has been delayed. Boom. That's it. That's all they would tell us. So now we're going on like 3 hours of waiting. And I'm getting restless, and everybody else is getting restless. So finally, I go up to the desk, and I say, we want to talk to management. And then a woman behind me joined me in the protest, and she said, yeah, we want to talk to management. You know, we feel that you should give us an explanation of why our plane isn't taking off and when we can reasonably expect it to take off. And so she and I start this literal protest at the gate, okay? And we're getting people to chant and everything. I mean, we're really just, and
Great.
and she so this woman led the rebellion, and finally management came along and said, okay, we're getting ready, we're going to get you on a plane. We've had troubles with the engine or something and whatever. And finally they get us on the plane, and I think it was the stewardess or the cabin attendant said to me, now, are you going to be good?
Really?
And I said, only if you treat us right, otherwise I'm going to make a big stink. She said, well, in that case, now what do you think the next words were?
You can't get on the plane?
Nope. We're going to have to put you in first class.
Oh.
So we can keep an eye on you. That was
Wow.
so I got first class because I was not because they were trying to make me happy, but as a punitive
Trying to
measure
set
to
you
keep
up.
me from complaining. So if I started chanting or I started yelling or I started complaining, there wouldn't be like 200 people in the cabin. There'd only be like 10. You know. I get
That
to New York,
worked.
but the best part of the story is I get to New York, and somebody calls me from San Francisco and says, "Are you dating Deborah Winger?" I said, "What?" I said, "Are you dating Deborah Winger?" I said, "Well, not last time I looked. I don't even know Deborah Winger." He said, "Well, according to Herb Cain, who was then the biggest columnist in San Francisco, in this morning's Chronicle, you and Deborah Winger led a protest at the airport." Turns out the woman with me was Deborah Winger, and Herb Cain
great.
then assumed that we were going together. And I said, "Shit, that was Deborah Winger?" You know,
I never heard that story. That's great.
yeah. So Debs and I led a protest, but I didn't know it was Deborah Winger. I had no idea. You know, I mean, sometimes when people aren't in the movies, they don't look very impressive. You know,
Exactly.
so I thought that was really fun. But I came back and I kept joking on the air about my girlfriend Deborah Winger. You know.
You were her urban cowboy.
Did you ever date anybody famous?
No.
I never did either, actually. I missed out. I did date. I had one date with Linda Blair.
I remember that.
Yeah, but I never went for famous people. With all the famous people I met, you know, and there sometimes somebody in my crew or somebody working with me would go, you know, she was hot for you, and I didn't even pick up on it. You know, I remember at Sirius that she was hot for you. Comment came after I had interviewed Nancy Sinatra. You know, but
Wow.
yeah, but I never really the closest I ever came to having sex with somebody famous was Marilyn Chambers, and we never quite got the date. She wanted to go out with me. She wanted to, get to know me better, as she put it. It was towards the end of her life, and then she dropped dead. So there's my luck, And I liked her a lot. She was a nice lady.
Well, someone said that actually dating famous people might not be as hard as you think because a lot of people think they're unapproachable. So they said famous people often are just alone at home. Like they said Marilyn Monroe went out with a lot of people, very low-level people, because everyone was afraid to ask her out.
Really?
Yeah. That's why, who said that the columnist, James Bacon.
You
said
know
that.
who I'll have to ask?
He dated her for a while.
I'll have to ask a question of my friend Jack Garfine, who was like very close to Marilyn, and ask him about that. It'd be an interesting question to ask him.
Yeah, ask him about James Bacon.
I mean, she put up with the two Kennedys tag team in her.
may have signed her death warrant with that one.
Yeah, could have well been. A lot of people who say she was murdered say she was murdered by the Kennedys. But
That would be incredible.
yeah, wouldn't it be? But anyway, so
Or maybe, or the mob.
yeah, the mob. Yeah, I don't know what happened to Marilyn, but she had such a sad life that it was only fitting that it would end that way. You know?
Yeah, 36.
Yeah, 36. Was she 36? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Gee. Actually, that's really good because her memory will always be as that Marilyn. Okay? Whereas do you remember Ginger Rogers?
I remember the name, yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever see her when she got older?
No, I've seen the pictures. She was known for her legs, right?
She danced with Fred Astaire
Okay.
in their early movies. It was Astaire Rogers, and in fact, somebody once said, "So what was your talent?" She said, "I did everything Fred did, but backwards and in heels." But as she got older, she would appear on television, and she just looked terrible. You know, she was fat and puffy and kept trying to do the makeup so she still looked like Ginger Rogers. And so I imagine if Marilyn had gotten older, we wouldn't have that fond memory of her.
Yeah, she'd be bloated. And
how about James Dean? What would he be like today? You know?
Yeah, he kicked out at like 24.
James Dean would be the kind of guy you would look at on television and say, what the fuck happened to him? You know, that was another friend of Jack Garfine's, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've asked him about him, too. He saw him the day that he got in the car and started driving up north. And said, drive safely, because that's a dangerous car because it goes fast. And he said, I'll be a take care, and he took off. And then he said he was in a I've got to bring him back here to do the second interview with him. Because,
he sounds like an interesting guy.
Yeah, he was in the screening room. He was in a screening room with Elizabeth Taylor and a bunch of people from Giant watching the Rushes. And somebody came in and whispered something in Elizabeth Taylor's ear, and she screamed out at the top of her lungs, "Oh my God!" And she said, people said, "What's wrong? What happened?" And she said, "James is dead. Jimmy's dead." So he was there when they found out. Yeah. So I mean, but he gave James Dean his first acting job at the Actors Theater. So. Or maybe on some Broadway thing he did. I can't remember. But I got to bring him back in here to tell
Yeah,
me
that guy sounds like he knows everybody.
Oh, yeah. And I love Jack, too. But I got to get him in here because before he forgets it all. You know.
I want to hear him now, the way the stories you told me about him.
Well, I did the first half of his life, which was his life in concentration camps. And now I want to bring him back and do the other history. So I guess I got to call him and arrange it and get him in here.
Get him in, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, you said last week that, because we were talking about 9/11, you wanted to mention tragedies about.
Yeah, we were going to ask you where you were when JFK got shot.
Yeah, I was in the Navy and I was home on leave, and I remember one morning during that, after he died, getting up and walking in, turning on the television set, and they're walking Lee Harvey Oswald out of the jail.
I was watching that. Yeah, that was live.
And then he gets shot, right? I saw him get shot live on television. And for years I kept saying, well, we know Jack Ruby did it because there were too many witnesses. So everybody was watching television at the time was a witness.
Mm-hmm.
So, But that's where I was, I was in the Navy, and I had come home from the Navy on leave. And he got killed, and I went, fuck. That ruins my vacation. Now there's nothing to watch on television for 3 days. Because it was end to end. I mean, What I'm wondering, if by some act of God, Trump died, and I say act of God because if he did, I would then start believing in God. he died, or he was, let's say he was assassinated. Let's give it the same thing that happened to Kennedy. Do you think America would grieve in quite the same way they did with Kennedy?
Totally different time, though.
Yeah, but
People that hate him would go. People that hate him would be celebrating, probably.
I mean, do you think that we would give it the same weight that we gave the death of Kennedy?
No.
Or is he so abhorred that most people would just go, okay, bury him and get it over with? But we have, like, you remember it was like, if you remember the Kennedys, where were you when? Well, you asked me, where were you? Oh yeah,
I was in.
You were in Dallas on the grassy knoll.
I was in 6th grade, and we got sudden an announcement came over the intercom, and they said the president's car's been shot at, and they sent us home. They didn't tell us he was dead, and then got home, and yeah, like you said, it was a nonstop. That was a Friday. It was
well, how were you? Did your parents tell you he was then dead?
Yeah, as soon as I got home, I found out. That's when I found out. Because people were. I remember we were leaving school, and somebody in the hallway said, "I bet the chauffeur's glad that guy was a bad shot." So we thought he was still alive.
Well, because the only thing you got was that the president's car had been shot at.
Been shot at, but we're sending you all home. Yeah,
why did they send everybody home? I bet by then the teachers knew he was dead, or that he had been shot. And they didn't want to pass that information to you.
They probably, they were young enough. They don't want to panic us. So
yeah.
I remember it was a very depressing weekend, and it was like nonstop. And then we both saw Jack Ruby kill Oswald.
Yeah.
And I think when that happened, my father just said, "Okay, that's a conspiracy."
Well, it's hard to believe that it wasn't. Or why did Jack Ruby do that? Is the question.
Yeah.
But today that whole scenario could have never happened because security would be so tight.
Oh yeah, never. Ruby just walked into the thing.
I've got donuts.
I got donuts. That's all you needed to kill someone in the 60s. I got donuts.
I got donuts, and while they're eating them, you shoot them.
That's hilarious. You're writing.
Huh?
You've come up with El Foam when I've got donuts. You're on fire.
Yeah, but I've got donuts. Yeah, I just never could quite. Well, we know how he got in because he knew all the people at the police department.
Yeah.
But still. Why, out of all the people in Dallas, this guy? And that's why I, to this day, think the Kennedy assassination was a mob hit. And
yeah, that's what we talked to Morcell about that. Yeah, you get a history lesson. Yeah.
Well, I've always considered it a mob hit. It's very simply, because they had every reason to hate him all the way around, the Cubans hated him, but not who was in league with the Cubans to a certain extent, the mob. Yeah, it really was quite a day in history to live through. And would he have wound up being a great president in the end? I don't know. He wasn't such a great president while he was alive. That's the great myth about Kennedy, is that he was this great president.
No, it's like James Dean. You die young, and you develop a myth automatically. So.
The reason all his ideas survived and became law was because of Johnson.
Lyndon Johnson got through more legislation maybe than any president.
Yeah,
except Roosevelt.
Yeah. And he went in there and said, "I'm going to finish the agenda that the Kennedys started."
Yeah, Kennedy wanted Medicare, but couldn't get it through, and Johnson did.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, listen, another fine...
Another history lesson here with El Fomo and Alex.
El Fomo and Alex, yes. I got donuts. And, I got donuts. Boy, you make me laugh, Bubs. You make me...
That line's got to be used for somebody that gets into a police station. I got donuts, and he kills... We got to do that.
That could be your new catchphrase. I got donuts.
The pink box, I got donuts.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's him. Yeah, it's a guy named Larry.
El FOMO.
El FOMO. Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Alex.
Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GABNET, the Great American Broadcast Network.
And here I am. Here's Alex. Here. I've got donuts. We may have just come up with a new catchphrase for Bubs. I've got donuts. Anyway, welcome back. And I always enjoy having Bubs on. He is one of my favorite people in the whole world, as I say over and over and over again. And you know what this show does for me? I can't really move this camera around that much, but I've got a golf ball down here, and while I'm on the show, I rub the bottom of my foot on the golf ball, and that helps break up the plantar fasciitis that I supposedly have, according to my physical therapist, who I've got to make an appointment with soon. Anyway, how are you? Good to see you. Let me turn on the Skype here. Skype. Okay, Skype is up. Then I turn it on. There we go. Okay. Get rid of that. And we're ready to go. It says the latest version of Skype is ready to install now. Won't you it won't take long to upgrade, and you'll get the latest improvements and fixes. Not now. You know, they said they're going to let us keep using this Skype that I use, which is Skype Classic, and they said, we'll let you keep using it. And I like it because it looks better than this new shit they've got. Plus, I can't do it on this machine. I have to move over to the other machine to do it for all kinds of reasons. But anyway, I'll explain that later. Now, that's a panelist calling, ladies and gentlemen, as we go to our regular ritual of the Citizens Panel. And first on the panel tonight, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Mr. Morse Code himself, Vernon Nunn. How are you, Vernon?
I got donuts.
Yeah, I got donuts. Yeah. Tap out your name on that Morse code. Boy, that's a talent that I admire, because I could never do it. I have no idea how you do it, and plus, there's no use for it anymore, right?
Other than having fun.
I mean, they don't use Morse code anywhere in the world, do they? For anything in particular?
Yeah, where voice won't cover the area. You know, sometimes the Morse code gets through on certain frequencies to certain distances that you can't with voice.
Yeah, but then you got to have people know Morse code like Vernon does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are they training people in the military to do Morse code these days? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So, see, you're wrong, Phil.
No, I'm not wrong. You use Morse code to get through to certain places that you couldn't with voice.
But wouldn't the military keep doing it if they felt that was a need?
The military has all these expensive satellites now, so they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. So you do it for fun. You do it because it's a great old-fashioned skill.
Yep.
You know? I like it. I like it a lot. Hello, John Perulis. How are you?
Hi, Alex. Hi, everybody. I'm fine.
Let me see. Let me bring Jeff in here. Now we have a panel of 4 so far. This looks like a Beatles album cover for Let It Be.
Yeah.
You were just talking about remembering what you were doing during the JFK assassination. I was 11 years old.
Wait a minute. I haven't talked about that in weeks.
No, just now with Bubbles. You were talking about you being in the Navy.
I record those things days ahead of time, week ahead of time.
Okay.
So I don't remember what's on them, but I do remember I've got donuts.
Yeah, well, it's just funny. I just got finished doing some video work for Russ Baker. He wrote a book called Family of Secrets on the Bush Family. And George Sr., W's dad, doesn't remember where he was on November 22nd, 1963.
Yeah.
I was 11 years old, and I remember exactly where I was. And what I was doing.
There are certain events in history, if you lived through them, that you remember. I mean, I'm sure most people remember where they were when they found out that the World Trade Center had been hit.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably the more modern one for kids. You know, but those who remember,
I was in school. I think I was in 3rd grade, possibly 4th grade, and the announcement came over the PA system.
Yeah, what did they say? We have some bad news. We have good news. We have bad news. Good news is you get out early. Bad news is the president is dead.
Yeah, really. I don't think they said the president is dead. I think they said he was shot.
Yeah,
he was shot.
Shot. That's right. Yep.
Yeah. That was the first thing that they came out with, was that he was shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Walter Cronkite, you know, looks at the camera, takes his glasses off. I remember him putting his glasses on. That was what he did, and just said that the president has died at blah blah blah. And he looked at the time on the clock.
He was visibly upset. I remember that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Where were you?
And he looked up at a clock. He looked up at a clock and gave the time.
Yeah. Where were you when Kennedy was shot, Rob?
Kindergarten.
Oh, good God! Go fuck yourself. What?
We were watching a movie in kindergarten, and the light about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was an afternoon kindergartner.
Yeah.
And the lights came on, the projector went off, and they told us, and they sent us all home.
Wow.
School closed a little early.
Yeah. Where were you, Jeff?
Well, I guess I was old.
Yeah.
I was in college.
I thought you were on the grassy knoll.
No. I was in Massachusetts in college, and I don't know how I actually knew it was on the radio. Probably not TV. I don't think we had a TV in college at that time. And the school was closed.
Yeah.
And so somehow we all tried to figure out we could get a ride to go home.
Yeah.
And I went back to New York.
Being the kind of self-indulgent individual that I am, I was just pissed because I couldn't watch the Beverly Hillbillies. You know.
I was pissed because I couldn't watch my cartoons.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the whole world stopped.
Yeah.
I went to a Catholic school,
Yeah.
so the nuns came in to tell us, and all the nuns were crying.
Mm-hmm.
And Kennedy was our king. He was the Catholic king. So, and in fact, I used to hang out at Hyannis, Cape Cod, at St. Francis Roman Catholic Church, and I stood next to him twice. You know, it was like seeing God.
I think they had pictures.
So it was different for Catholics.
I think in Catholic churches and in Catholic homes, they had pictures of Kennedy, much like black families have pictures of Obama.
Or Martin Luther
King. But you go up and down the street here in Harlem, and in the store windows, you got pictures of Barack Obama side by side with Martin Luther King. You know.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, you live on his street.
What?
Don't you live on MLK?
No, I no.
Oh, that's right. You're on, what's the guy's name?
Oh, Adam Clayton Powell, that fucking asshole.
Powell.
Yeah, he died, and they gave him a street here in Harlem, which, like he was a fucking crook, all right? And he had a street name for him here in Harlem, which I now, unfortunately, have to live on, because it really was 7th Avenue, and I still put 7th Avenue on my address, because I don't want to have to put, are you ready for this? Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard. I'm sorry, I get writer's cramp, I
don't blame you.
Huh?
I don't blame you.
So I just go 7th Avenue, and everybody, if you mail a letter to me and says, 7th Avenue, 1925, 7th Avenue, they'll.
Well, I'm happy there's no Willie Brown Street in San Francisco yet.
The Bay Bridge in one direction going east is the Willie Brown Bridge.
Oh, no. No,
There's
you're
a
kidding.
sign.
Yeah.
No, you get on at Sterling Street. You know where the Sterling Street exit is off of?
Yeah.
Willie Brown, for people who don't know, was a mayor of San Francisco. Yeah.
And the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
In the State House of California.
A frequent guest on KCBS AM.
Yeah.
They have free food.
Yeah, and he would show up for it. You can be damn sure of that, the crook. Yes, Jeff.
Is it still 7th Avenue, like on, I don't know, 42nd Street?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, 7th Avenue, a lot of these things, here's what they do, is they take streets, and they're still, you can still say, if I tell a cab driver I'm going to, 116th and 7th Avenue, he'll take me to 116th and Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard. Everybody still, in fact, we have a thing called Avenue of Americas here in New York. And that's just for people who want to put it on the stationery. If I tell a cab driver I'm going to 42nd and 6th, he knows exactly where I'm going. But what happens is they sometimes name streets after people. Like, for instance, then they're usually side streets. Right next to the Ed Sullivan Theater, the street between 7th and 8th, and wherever the Ed Sullivan Theater was, where Letterman used to do his show. That street is Senor Wenceslas. Yeah, it's called 53rd. It's Senor Wenceslas Way.
Mm-hmm.
And Senor Wenceslas was a ventriloquist who appeared regularly on the Ed Sullivan Show. For you, easy; for me, difficult. It was a close the box. I love that act. That was one of the. If you ever go online, you can get them on YouTube. Look up Senor Wenceslas, Wences, Senor Wenceslas, and you will see the funniest ventriloquist act you've ever seen in your life. But anyway, and there's a Duke Ellington Way, for instance. There's a Swing Street, off of 6th Avenue, and sadly, there is a Bruce Morrow Way off of 6th Avenue. I don't know.
Everybody that's on it's a cousin.
Well, no, he undoubtedly had to pay somebody off for that,
That must be right next to where the ABC, right by the Warwick and ABC.
I think you're right. I think you're right. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. But I was on that same street, right?
Did they name it after you?
And up the street, I was at WMCA, and they didn't name a street after me. Alex Bennett Way. So, but they didn't name it. I think you have to have like a bunch of people who run in there and politically get it. It's just honorary because they still have the name of the real street on it, so you don't get confused. Yeah,
and it's only that one block. Like Bruce Morrow, the Bruce Morrow thing only goes from 6th Avenue to whatever the next avenue over is. It doesn't. It's not the whole street, right?
Yeah, but they have done something because of Bruce Morrow. They have carpeted the entire street so that it has a rug on.
Shag rug.
Only people who know Bruce Morrow get that joke. God.
I think Avenue of the Americas is only mentioned by someone who's a non-New Yorker.
Yeah, you don't. If
a New Yorker would never say that. They would even know where it is.
But you know what? Non-New Yorkers or new New Yorkers used to have that we didn't. But we had something they didn't. We had a 212 area code.
Right.
Yeah.
But now it's impossible to get a 212 area code. You almost have to buy somebody else's.
Someone has to die.
I mean,
it's like Seinfeld. It's like the Seinfeld episode. Remember they did about the 212 area code.
Yeah. So I'm 646. And I felt very bad when that happened because when I left New York and went to California and came back, I lost my right to a 212 number.
And you probably lost your 415 area code from the Bay Area, too.
I don't even know.
No, he was in Marin, and they had
I was in the Marin.
And then when he went to San Francisco, it was still 415.
Yeah,
415 was pretty much the general area code for San Francisco and for Marin County.
That's right. I still have 415.
Yeah, the East Bay, we got ripped. It went to 510, and then it went to 925.
925. So what is your phone exchange?
925.
925.
Oh, I thought it was 666.
Yeah,
and now
that's the number over my door.
Here's what happens. It's really strange now because times have changed. Okay, so I call my ex-wife Ronnie. And I call her on her telephone number, which is a 212 area code. Because wherever she's gone, you're allowed to keep your phone number on your cell phone. So you can, when somebody's calling from a 212 area code number, you don't know if they're really calling from 212. You know.
Sounds like Obamacare. You can keep your doctor, you can keep your area code.
Yeah. But anyway, that was when we had a truthful president. But anyway, so they have all these streets that are named for other people. And so what they did down here, there's one of the most legendary streets in all of Harlem is Lenox Avenue. I mean, if you talk about Harlem, you're talking about, Lenox Avenue.
Is that the furnace guy?
What? No. About 125th and Lenox is like what we would call classic Harlem. All right? Am I right? For an address.
Yep.
And what they did is they made that Malcolm X Boulevard. But it still says Lenox under it as well.
Who was Lenox? Because my grandfather used to live on Lenox Road near Flatbush Avenue.
Have no idea. But the fact is that I think Malcolm X, because he was so indigenous to Harlem, nobody minded them, adding the name Malcolm X to the address, to the street. So, I live on Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard. The guy was a crook. He was an asshole. He was everything wrong with he was one of those kind of people who was a congressman who he was a congressman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't the guy who took over for him, he was a crook too?
Charlie Ramble.
Yeah.
Charlie Ramble.
Yeah. Is he still here? I don't think so. I think he finally retired. I think.
Yeah, he's probably living.
But no. It's funny that particular seat in the Congress gave you the right to steal. And so
it was mandatory.
So because everybody wanted to make a big deal out of Adam Clayton Powell Jr. because he was so well known that they named the street after him. And unfortunately, I live on it. But I was a big fan of, and a hero of mine was Malcolm X. I wish my address was Malcolm X Boulevard. But unfortunately, I've got the crook. So, But anyway.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Sure.
The Morse code guy, I forget your name, you're silent. I was watching this documentary on engineering and the sinking of the Titanic. And there were two ships, the Californian and the Carpathian, that were closest to the Titanic. Mm-hmm. And the guy said, I thought he said this, you're being a Morse code guy, maybe you can clear this up, that the Morse code key guy on the Titanic did some kind of insulting thing to the Californian, and the Californian shut their Morse code down, so they didn't respond to the catastrophe.
That's not what I heard. What I heard to begin with, the California is the one that went and did the rescue.
The Carpathia.
Was it Carpathia? No.
Yeah.
I thought it was the California. Well, anyway.
No, the
Carpathia. The California didn't, and it was because I think the captain of the ship said, I don't want to go there. I don't believe the call.
Oh, I thought it was a Morse code issue.
There was a Morse code sent when the Titanic realized that they were foundering, and it was CQD. You've heard me sign on here with CQ. Well, the CQD meant distress. They're saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm in trouble."
Yeah.
And the California didn't hear them because they sent their radio man to bed.
Yeah.
Okay,
that was it. Okay.
Yeah, I guess it was. Yes, it was a Carpathia that picked them up because I always felt embarrassed that I was from California and the California didn't go pick them up. But but I don't. I didn't ever hear that story about dueling Morse codes.
Your landlords lost their life on the Titanic, and so that's probably why they hadn't raised the rent in all those years.
What do you mean? What do you mean my landlords?
The Astors.
Oh, the Astors did lose their. The Astors built this building I'm in. Yeah, the old man Astor, and also my ex-boss's great-grandfather. Was it his great-grandfather or grandfather? It had to be his great-grandfather. No, it was grandfather. I worked for R. Peter Strauss, and the Strausses died on the Titanic.
Right.
They're the famous ones that they use in every movie about the Titanic, where the wife wouldn't go on the rowboat because she wanted to stay with her husband. And they were an elderly couple, and they went down on the Titanic. Right after he went down on her, I guess. I don't know, what the ritual was. But I said, I said to myself, if they just had gone on that trip a little bit younger in life, and the same thing had happened, I might not have had to put up with R. Peter Strauss. So, and R. Peter Strauss went on, of course, to marry Monica Lewinsky's mother.
Oh, Jesus, it all ties together.
After his old wife died, and she was the heir to the New York Times. She was a Salzburger.
Mm.
So it was all inbreeding that was going on there. Because I'm trying to remember, the Strausses started Macy's.
Yeah.
And a great story I heard. I don't know, I just remember this because we're talking about the New York Times. But, okay, the New York Times wouldn't advertise in the local Hearst newspaper years ago. So Hearst decided, this is one of the biggest ad companies that buy ad time and so on anywhere in the country. So William Randolph Hearst decided to have lunch with, I think, Mr. Strauss to see why they weren't buying time in his papers, or space in his papers. I'm thinking radio. And let me see if I can just get this story right. And he said, so they were eating, and finally William Randolph Hearst said, listen, one of the reasons I took you out to lunch is I want to ask you a question. You don't advertise with our newspaper, and I wanted to know why. And he's very simple. He says, your readers are our shoplifters. I think I got
bad demographic.
Right. Huh?
Bad demographic.
Yeah, bad demographic. But the naming of streets and things like that, I think, is a very political thing. But
now they're naming stadiums. You can pay for naming rights on stadiums.
Well,
why can't you have naming rights for streets?
Yeah, like Kelvinator Street or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of do that. The Adopt a Highway program, where you see the next mile is brought to you by whomever.
Well, mostly it's a slain police officer.
No,
you see a lot of companies. I see a lot of companies.
No. The next mile is basically brought to you by Home Lumber.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That.
But part of the deal is that the people at Home Lumber have to keep it clean.
No, they pay money.
They pay.
And there's this, and then the convicts.
Sponsorship.
The people who get arrested and have to do time public service, if they don't have their wits about them, they end up having to clean up the highways.
Yeah.
If they don't have a special skill.
So, anyway, so what else? What's happening these days? It's.
You mean besides the Brett Kavanaugh fiasco?
You mean the Bart Simpson? Yeah.
Oh, Miss Ford.
Huh?
The Ford. I guess she's going to testify.
Dr. Ford.
On Monday.
Dr. Ford, Phil.
She's a psychologist.
She's a doctor. She went. Yes, she is. She's a doctor. She's a doctor of psychology, Phil.
She's psychiatry.
Yeah, she is.
PhD.
Yeah, she's a good
Alex
lady.
is a PhD.
No, I don't.
I know that.
No,
I wish Kavanaugh would take a vacation at Cibolo Creek Ranch in Marfa, Texas. That's where Antonin spent his last vacation.
Yeah.
You would think if Kavanaugh had nothing in his past, then he would say, you know what? I want this investigation. I want my name clear. No, he does not.
You know why he does it, though?
He wants to have the hearing in front of a partisan. That'd be like, the people already have their minds made up. It's kind of funny. You hear everybody say, all the Republican politicians say, we got to do this, we got to do this, but she deserves to be heard. But she deserves to be heard. It almost reminds me of the Seinfeld episode where they said, I'm not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Yeah. It's almost like they have a line that goes along with it,
Yeah.
I mean, the Senate is an investigatory body.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it is. It is meant. It is meant. It is meant to look into situations and advise and consent the president.
Right. And that's what they're going to do. And
no, they're not. If they were an investigatory body,
they can interview this lady and decide, based on the findings, whether to advise her or con.
I think that there needs to be a fair hearing, which I don't think she's going to get with Grassley and Orrin Hatch and all those doofuses who last time.
Didn't Trump call for an independent judge to sit in on this thing?
No. She passed the lie detector test, and today Nancy Pelosi challenged Kavanaugh to take a lie detector test. Cops have to take a lie detector test if you want to enter the police force or the military. You got to take for a higher position, you got to take a lie detector. The Supreme Court's the highest judicial office in the land. Why not force these guys to take a lie detector test?
Vernon's got his hand up.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that the Republicans actually had the balls to say, we don't need to get the FBI involved in this. They don't do that kind of thing.
Not what they said.
What do you think the I stands for in FBI? Federal Bureau of Investigations. That's what they do.
But they don't have any jurisdiction over this.
Well, they did. Wait a minute. They did. Where Anita Hill was concerned.
I don't remember that.
In any situation.
Well, because what happens is before they vet, they're the ones that do the
Phil, it is not any different than when Anita Ford testified. Orrin Hatch and Grassley were all asking the FBI to investigate.
And in fact, the president at the time.
And Kavanaugh doesn't want to be investigated because they have documented proof that he lied to Congress on previous confirmations.
All you want is delay so that hopefully.
Yes, we want a delay so that we want to delay.
This is dirty politics.
Phil, let me ask you this question. Then Rob has the floor next. I want to just say that, but I want to finish saying this to you, Phil.
Phil, not even give
Phil, this is a job which he is going to be entitled to have for the rest of his life. All right? I think that if there's even a slight doubt, we should err on the side of caution and investigate fully any charges that may be made against him. So we're putting a person into that position who deserves to fully be in that position and be responsible enough to have that position. So what you're asking us to do is to simply close our eyes, hold our nose, and say, go ahead, let him be confirmed.
You're holier than thou.
Well, I am holier than thou where this is concerned. It's important that we find...
All you want is delay.
Of course. Because all you fucking Republicans want, Phil, is a rush. You want to like slam him in that court as fast as possible.
So Louis C.K. when he was accused,
this has nothing to do. This has nothing to do with it. This has nothing to do with it. Phil, you are so full of fucking shit.
It's your hashtag me too.
I'll tell you what.
Let Rob talk.
I'll tell you what. You know what I was going to say before. We're so past it. What I would like to say though is Republicans have really forgotten what's true and what's important. It's all about the end game. I've said it before, but it is so true. Phil, you are not thinking about what is right, what is just. You're thinking about what you want to slam through, and you got power now, so you're just trying to slam it through. Nobody cares about ethics. Nobody cares about what's the right thing to do. You just want to slam it through.
They're senators and congressmen. They never cared about ethics.
No, what you're doing is that's whataboutism. Okay.
No, it isn't.
Yes,
Who
it is.
Cares if
Absolutely.
It is? Where did you get this bullshit? what about?
Well, because that's the way you argue everything, and the way Trump argues. What about Obama when he did this, or what about
Sean
this?
Hannity, your favorite newsman?
Yeah, you got it from some broadcaster, and now all of a sudden it's law. Fuck whataboutism.
Hey, Anita Hill took a lie detector test and passed it, but not that scumbag. He graduated 2 years ahead of me at Holy Cross, by the way. Was one of the first blacks that came in to Holy Cross, all-white male college in Worcester, Mass, home to Abby Hoffman.
Right.
On affirmative action program. And that scum lying dirtbag is now opposed to affirmative action. And that's how he got his ass into Holy Cross. Lying piece of shit. And this other Catholic boy is another lying piece of shit, and I hope he goes down in
All I'm
flames.
saying, Phil, is that when you've got a position which a man is going to have for the rest of his life, this in many ways may be one of the most important things any member of Congress is going to vote on in their term in office, because they are going to be setting the agenda for maybe the next 40 or 50 years by doing this.
What
So if before you do
it,
don't you think you should look at everything and look at every question that's being asked about this person? Shouldn't he be vetted? Shouldn't he be No, he isn't being vetted.
She has the ability.
Phil, we sat here a week ago and we all agreed that this hearing was nothing but a hearing that he was going to go through anyway, and that it was a waste of everybody's time, and even you agreed with me on that.
So is this allegation.
No, this allegation may have some real weight to it.
You're really
she passed a lie detector test.
Phil, you're really being serious, huh?
What's that have to do with the price of tea in China, Vern?
She's getting death threats.
You're telling me it's a waste of time. You're telling me it's a waste of time. How do you know that, Phil, if you don't know her?
Well, I know that she is being given an opportunity to voice her opinion and say what she thinks happened. I think she's mixed up about it. I think that she has mixed up that encounter with someone else's.
Phil, she's taken a lie detector test and passed it.
She believes it. She's a psychologist. She knows how to take a lie detector test.
So, Phil, don't you think it's important then to find out whether she's got her recollections are wrong or not?
Yeah, isn't it good? Wouldn't it? Isn't it important for Brett? Isn't it important for Brett Kavanaugh? Wait a minute. Isn't it important? And I'll go to you, Rob, next. Isn't it important for Brett Kavanaugh to have this thing come out completely so he can clear his name? But they don't seem to be wanting to do that. They just want to rush him into that office and forget about him.
He should come, and they postponed. And on Monday, she has an opportunity to confront the person.
She is not going in Monday. You haven't heard the news.
It's an artificial deadline, Phil.
It's an artificial deadline, and there's
Monday or nothing.
I like Monday.
No reason.
Monday's
no
better
reason
than
to
Tuesday.
make it Monday or nothing. It's an artificial deadline.
Oh, it's no reason for you guys that want to delay and obstruct.
Well, delaying it by a few days.
Mitch McConnell did when he was in the minority.
You don't have to yell. I hear you.
Yes, Rob.
Well, I forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry. Do you remember at all?
Nope.
No. Oh, I'm sorry, Rob. I should have just said Rob at that point, and I'll do it next time.
None of us can remember what we.
I remember now.
Okay.
Remember now.
Don't stop it. Let him go.
It is important that the people who she said were in the room have denied it, right? But none of them have denied it under oath.
Yeah.
And we need to talk to those people.
Are they coming in?
No, that's because they want the investigation. Get these guys under oath and ask them questions.
Hey, Elaine from Seinfeld, Dreyfus, she just wrote a long letter in support of Christine Ford and said that she went to that same school that Christine Ford did. And it's the same, guys, I went to Catholic school all my life. There were fucking jerks like a Kavanaugh there. I know the type. I don't think this lady's lying. I think I did bad things when I was a teenager, when I was 17 years old. I remember every single fucking bad thing I did. And I'm not going to enumerate them here because, this is a public airway. But I never killed.
Limitations.
I never raped or killed anybody, okay? But, you remember those things. And you could see the deceit written all over this scumbag's face. I'm sorry.
He says he didn't do it.
Well, wait a minute. Listen to yourself, Phil. What a sexist motherfucker you are, because what you'll do is you believe Brett Kavanaugh without question, and yet this woman makes an allegation, and she's a liar, and she can't remember things.
His last name was Judge. She said he was in the room, and he says he didn't.
His name was Judd.
Put him under oath. And of course, Kavanaugh's going to say he didn't do it. Who's going to admit to something?
Have you seen some of the writings? Have you seen some of the writings this guy Judd has done?
No.
No, they're writing books and stuff about how women should be happy of a man's passion because it's the most marvelous thing in the world, and a whole bunch of crap like that. That's a bunch of sexist drivel, and he's written books on this. And he's sitting around saying they didn't do this in high school. He has a character in one of his books named Brett who literally forces himself on a woman.
Oh, Kavanaugh. He called him.
Hey, well, David Brock, former Republican operative who was friends with Kavanaugh, said that Kavanaugh used to openly brag about how he would overturn Roe v. Wade. And, maybe that's going to happen. Kavanaugh just may pass this. I swear to God, if they try to, and if they do overturn Roe v. Wade, the nurses' unions throughout the whole land, doctors will show support. This will reinvigorate the labor movement like you have never seen before. They will openly violate the law if they try to overturn Roe v. Wade, and there'll be fucking riots in the streets. I'm saying it right now.
All right. We'll see.
But I mean, your whole attitude that Brett Kavanaugh must be telling the truth. Why would he lie? And then of course she's a liar.
Many times by the FBI.
Well,
all of a sudden she was in couples counseling and has a revelation in 2012 during her couples counseling, and then she doesn't know when it happened, where it happened. All she remembers is there was somebody in the room. She thinks it's this guy. This is supposition.
First of all, you don't know what she says.
You don't know what she says.
You don't know what she says because she hasn't testified.
Phil, she hasn't said a word about it. She has just said that she had been assaulted by Brett Kavanaugh, and that's as far as she's gone. She's never given details. That's what she wants to do before a congressional committee.
So she'll do it on Monday.
But no, she's not going to be there Monday.
She's lucky she didn't end up like Mary Jo Kopechne. Now, there's a Catholic boy syndrome for you, too, crime cover-up. I'm telling you, it's in the psychological makeup of these characters. I know it. I grew up with
Teddy was a drunk. And
he was a liar, too.
Was Brett Kavanaugh when he was in high school.
He was a drunk. Right.
Well, that's one of those Irish things, I think.
Well, now you're just this Irish thing, But the girl,
that makes it okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it's in the blood.
And
everybody I know that's Irish drinks.
He is the Supreme Court of our land.
Yeah, because he's one of
let me just put this in another way, and I don't know what went on. I'm only going to go by what is being alleged. Okay, but think about this poor woman, Phil, for a second. But you can't because you're a sexist fucking pig.
She's
wait a minute. Will you let me finish, Phil? Phil, shut up a second and let me talk, okay? Think about her, that she's gone through her whole life with certain problems, maybe sexually, a lot of other kinds of problems, which she had to go work out in group counseling, okay?
That's right.
Because of this incident. Because of this incident, because of what this animal did to her, all right? And now she wants to completely let it go by going public with it. Something which, she didn't have to do. She's had to move out of her house because of death threats, everything else.
Yeah.
This woman has paid a price for just simply saying, hey, hold on a second. You got to find out something about this guy. So don't sit around and start besmirching her because she wants her day in front of the committee in a unbiased light to tell her story.
Okay, let me preface this by saying bullshit, number one. And number two...
Why is it bullshit? What's bullshit?
I'm telling you why it's bullshit. Because in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. Kavanaugh has rights. She's the accuser, and if she's going to accuse,
Phil,
she's got to make her
unfortunately,
case.
That's right. She does. That's right. Give her the chance.
But this is not a court of law, Phil. This is politics.
You're yelling and screaming about his rights, but what about her rights?
Right.
Her rights. First
blah,
of all,
blah, blah. Bullshit, Phil.
It's the accused who has rights, and she has been the one that accused.
Well,
Kavanaugh.
this isn't a court of law. To begin with, this is not a criminal. This is not a criminal case.
That's where. Yeah, that's where
just because the statute of
innocent till proven guilty is something in a criminal case.
Yes.
Well, if you're going to make an accusation like this that besmirches his reputation, his future, his family's future, then you know what? You got
his future. He's already he's going back to the 3rd district. He's already got a life appointment.
He ain't going back to the 3rd district. He's going to the Supreme Court.
If he's not confirmed at the Supreme Court, he'll go back to the 3rd.
Because this woman has not got the goods to cause.
You don't know that, Phil. You do not know that. You're only assuming that. You do not know that. Neither
That's
do
because I don't read the left-wing news.
I don't.
He's such a victim.
I don't.
Accused, he has rights.
Yes, and she has rights too.
Well, her right is to prove her accusation.
And she wants to do that, but she wants it in an unbiased setting. She wants it in. No, have you seen Grassley?
11 old white men are going to judge her.
It's not just the 11 white men. What about Feinstein? What are the Democrats that are on this particular committee?
They're in the minority.
They may be in the minority, but there's plenty of them there. They're going to make sure that she gets her opportunity.
If Kavanaugh had any integrity, if he was a fucking man, a man with cojones, he would say, okay, I'll do the lie detector test. That's how absolutely clear I am.
John, he has rights.
He is a fucking chicken shit.
He has rights, and so does she. You know what, Phil, shut up a second, Phil. You know when he gave up his rights? You know when he gave up his rights? When he said,
I didn't know he gave up his rights.
Do you want to know when he gave up his rights?
I don't think
he gave up his rights the minute he said, yes, I would like to be a member of the Supreme Court. He gave up his rights because then every single nook and cranny of his life could be investigated and looked into. He gave up his rights by applying for the job.
And the FBI investigated him and didn't find any
They were only looking...
wait a minute. It's ongoing.
Yep. And it should not stop. They should be investigating this. If they do an investigation on a person and any new information arises, they need to go check it out.
Yeah,
but
well,
you know
what? I think this information is false. And why did Feinstein sit on it for 3 months?
How do you know it's false, Phil? Wouldn't you like to find out that it's false?
There's nothing to find out.
Let them find out. You don't know that there's nothing to find out.
To begin with, there's no such thing as a nuclear option.
It's just your opinion.
And that's your opinion. I got an opinion. You got
We don't have an opinion.
I'm saying
on Monday we'll find out the truth.
Monday she's not testifying, Phil. Haven't you watched the news?
Postponed it.
To when?
Later next week.
Yeah.
All right. So in this time period, is the FBI going to do any investigation?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
With Anita Hill,
are they going to interview?
With Anita Hill, it only took 3 days.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They did an investigation where Anita Hill was concerned. So why can't they do it in this case?
Well, obviously, maybe they are if they've postponed it till Friday.
No, the lawyer said we will show up, but we will show up later in the week, not on Monday, because you say that if you're not here by Monday, we're going to dismiss the whole thing.
Okay,
because
and you don't think that they're going to have her witnesses testify? Matter of fact, her witness said that she remembers her saying something about it after the couple's counseling, but nothing was said.
There are people that go back to her school days.
That's what I'm talking about. The one that goes back to her school days said that she doesn't have any idea what she's talking about.
Really? I didn't see that.
I didn't see that either.
Phil's pulling this stuff out of his ass. Phil's pulling this stuff out of his ass now. He's making it up.
No, I heard it on the radio.
On what? Glenn Beck?
No.
Newsmax?
I listen to CBS.
Phil, why would this woman put herself through this if she has nothing?
Yeah.
Why? Think about it.
Why does she want to
Why?
talk to the FBI where she could perjure herself?
Hey, she wants to stop.
Why does she want it? Why does she want to have the FBI investigate, in which she will be put in a position that if she's lying, she's perjuring herself?
Right. Why would she do
Why
that?
is she demanding
That's
that?
because in her recollection,
You don't hear Brett Kavanaugh
like
demanding an
Warren had
FBI
said.
investigation
What's
into
Warren
this to
had
clear
said?
him.
In her recollection, she can't say for sure that it was this Brett.
Yes, she
Kavanaugh.
can.
And
Yes.
that's not at a partisan point of view, Phil.
Maybe
partisan and
but
sexist.
Don't you have a partisan point of view?
But I'm not on that committee.
Neither am I. But I'm voicing my opinion that I don't think that it has to go further than let her voice her thing. Maybe she's going to sway
She
a
wants to
couple
have
of
a
the
fair hearing. She wants to have a fair hearing, Phil.
Why you gotta, Phil? You are a police officer. You cannot get into the San Francisco Police Department unless you submit yourself. And this is true for police departments all over the nation. You got to submit yourself to the fucking lie detector test, and this scumbag will not do it.
Hold
so
on.
that isn't in
Maybe
itself.
he doesn't have to do it.
By the way,
Does he have to
just
do
for a little moment of levity, Forbin Colossus writes on our chat room, Phil's prostate was aborted. That prostate deserved to live.
Oh, that's not fair. Yeah, that's not right. That's not nice. Colossus.
It's funny.
Fuck you.
It's funny, But anyway, we're never going to agree on this, and let's.
Well,
just
it
see
isn't
how
a matter of
plays out.
agreeing, Phil. It's a matter of let's
Fairness.
let it be fully investigated. This is
perfectly
not. You
fair.
can't be cavalier in this kind of thing. You can't push something through before it has a chance to see the light of day.
Perfectly fair. That's
No,
something
you're
that
not.
happened
Listen, they
94
wouldn't even.
years
The
ago.
Republicans wouldn't even listen to Merrick Garland. So at least,
that was reasonable.
at least
That
let's.
was the
No, it
Biden
wasn't.
rule. It was
Phil,
the
I
Biden
think-
rule.
I
It
think
was
you
not
guys.
reasonable.
The Biden rule was not any kind of rule that was binding by anybody. He just said it once.
he
That's
honored it.
all.
It was a
And-
suggestion.
And you call it
They
the
honored
Biden
it.
rule. It's that Biden brought it up. But no,
What
there's
about
no
the
rule
lie that
anywhere
no
that
other-
in their last
What about
year.
the lie that Mitch McConnell said that no other candidate for the Supreme Court had ever been confirmed in the final year of a presidency?
It's wrong.
This guy that just
They were
no,
like-
yeah, this guy that's just retired, Anthony Kennedy, was confirmed in the final year of Ronald Reagan's term.
Yeah, but that was due to a. Was that due to a death?
Well, no, they're all due to a death or a
cares?
retirement or
It
something.
doesn't matter.
Oh, that was Scalia. Yeah, Scalia died, and okay, but yeah, so big deal. They'll use whatever they can use to get their way. They're the ones in power. When you guys are in power, you'll pull your own shit.
I'll tell you what's going to happen when we're in power. There's going to be an investigation into Kavanaugh.
I don't think they can. Once he's
wanna bet?
elected, that's it.
Yes,
You
they
wanna
can.
bet?
Supreme Court justice can be impeached.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
then
true.
let him have the investigation. But right now, he's allowed to be appointed, and this woman is allowed to voice her opinion as to what she feels happened on that night, and Kavanaugh is denying it.
You know
So-
something? You're so partisan. A week ago or 10 days ago, we were on this program, and I said that I thought this was horrible. This woman didn't come out. She didn't say her name. She didn't speak out. She just made an allegation anonymously. And I said, you know what? I don't like this
That
guy,
sucks.
Kavanaugh, but that's wrong.
It is.
Now she's out. See, yeah, but I agreed. I don't want this guy Kavanaugh in there. But see, now that we've got this thing and we can give this woman a chance, we could do a little corroboration of her story by a little investigation to really get down to the truth. And you're against that because of the partisanship.
I'm not against it. I don't want the
Check your
delay.
state.
No,
Well, I don't want
wait a
to
minute,
delay. I
wait a
want
minute,
Kavanaugh
Phil. When
approved.
you say you don't want to delay, why don't you want to delay?
Doesn't make sense.
I want Kavanaugh approved.
Even if he's a scumbag.
Well,
even if he
no,
did this.
but-
Even if he's a scumbag, yeah.
How is that going to
Even if
not
he's a
approve it,
scumbag,
Bill?
Phil. Even if he did what he's accused of.
If he's a scumbag, then let the investigation happen after the approval, and let the
No, Phil. Come on.
You
What
know
dream?
I
What?
understand him. I understand how he feels because he voted for a scumbag who became president.
It's it's not like it's not like he's trying to get approved to be a congressman. Or he's trying to be approved to be the head of the FDA or something like that.
Opinions about presidential power.
Right.
Well,
he wasn't even on that list.
But you got to remember, when Trump isn't president anymore, there'll be someone else of the opposite party that may be president.
We still have to live with the next 40 years, though, Phil.
I hope so.
Hey, the other thing about Kavanaugh is the outright hypocrisy. This guy worked with Kenneth Starr and dug up all kinds of dirt and shit on Clinton during Clinton's impeachment.
John, did you hear Kenneth Starr's interview where he said that he wished he didn't bring up the Lewinsky thing?
No, I didn't.
Well, he could have, should have, but he didn't. He did, and that's history, and that's now history. Yeah.
Right. He regrets it.
Well, he may regret it, but that doesn't change history.
No, but I was just saying that he's been interviewed lately, and I thought he was Starr was a good guy.
And he believes there should be an FBI investigation. Anita Hill got it. He believes that there should be an investigation. He thinks that they're being rushed. This is all about just jamming.
What's the rush for, Phil?
There.
What's the rush for?
Well, the problem is you got all these FBI agents like Strzok and Comey and all of these guys.
They're not working for the FBI. They're not working
for the FBI anymore.
They're clearing the swamp. They're getting rid of these guys. Yeah. And this is nothing more than Trump derangement syndrome. There's nothing wrong with Kavanaugh. He's a good guy. He's a brilliant
FDS, didn't that used to be
17 Democrats that Trump talks about are all Republicans.
FDS,
Phil.
right, Phil? FDS, is that your term? Don't you remember that was the name of a feminine feminine hygiene deodorant spray? FDS?
TDS, Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh, TDS. Okay.
Yeah. And like this show, very tedious.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that you really feel that way. Just jam a guy in there without really understanding what his background is.
I don't think that he should be.
Why is there a rush, Phil? Why is there a rush?
Or an
Why is there a rush?
Why the rush? Because the Congress, because he's not going to be able to get approved by a Republican majority, and if you end up having a lame duck Senate approving him,
you know what I would do if I was him?
You're not going to get enough.
You know what I would do if I was him? I would go before the committee and say, this thing she's accusing me of may well have happened. I was drinking a lot in high school, and I don't remember the incident. But if she says it occurred, I would agree that maybe there was a chance that it did. But I was a kid. I made a lot of foolish decisions as a kid. Now I've grown up as an adult, and now I'm a responsible adult. Yeah. That's the way you preempt. It's called preemptive.
Never happened.
He said it never happened.
Right, like the Trump book, the Trump playbook. Deny, deny, deny.
Yeah.
Everything is denial.
That was Clinton. Deny, stall.
Do you want to know something? Trump, for instance, when you talk about denials, has denied that the voice on the tape on the Access Hollywood bus wasn't his.
Okay.
Yeah.
You believe that?
It was Kavanaugh's.
You believe that? Bill, do you believe that? Do you believe it wasn't him?
Yeah, it was Kavanaugh.
No. Seriously, do you believe that it wasn't him?
No, I believe it was him.
Oh, okay, good. I just was wondering
if
he's
denied it, Phil.
Maybe we need to send the medics to your house.
He's denied it.
Well, so.
I mean, he's still sticking by the fact that 65 people died in Puerto Rico.
And
that the whole problem could be solved by some paper towels.
I think most of them are how many died for Florence in South Carolina? About was it 60 or 30?
No,
how many people?
It's a lot.
How many people?
40 so far. Right?
I think it's higher than that. I think it's up in the 60s.
This morning it was 40.
But that was a Category 1 storm. Maria was a Category 5.
It's not just.
Oh, we shut him up.
Thank you, Verizon.
Well, he finally had that stroke we've been worrying about.
Thank you, Verizon.
Phil, you got frozen there.
Yeah, Phil, are you there?
I think he's disconnected, quite frankly.
I just love him. He's frozen that way. Let me remember you that way, Phil.
Frozen.
Wait a minute, got to look on YouTube, see what they're showing.
Well, let's all assume the position.
Oh yeah, he's frozen on YouTube too.
Yeah, he froze.
Oh, that was fun.
We lost him. Jeez. Well, now we can just gang up on him. We can do a little gang up on him if we want to.
The saddest thing about our friend Phil is that he does not see the hypocrisy in what the Republicans are doing right now versus what the Republicans did when they were not in the majority. He doesn't see the hypocrisy at all. He thinks that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It's partisan politics. It's what politics has become in this country.
Well, the thing is that my feeling is, and I try to tell Phil, but he won't listen. He just yells over what we're saying, is that why do we have to rush this? You want to cross the T's and dot the I's because this is maybe the most important okay these people are going to give to anybody in the time they've been in office. It's the biggest.
They need to strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah, they want to ram it down.
They're worried about losing it.
They want to ram it down our throats. Yeah, they feel that even 2 or 3 days would minimize the chances of Kavanaugh.
Or something else may come out. Something else may be said that could. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point you raised, because if this guy behaved that way, you can bet your ass he did it again somewhere. And,
so why come no one has come out? Why has no one else come forward?
They threatened. Well, she's already gotten death threats.
Well, look, anybody else who might be out there that this has happened to at the hands of Brett Kavanaugh, if in fact it did happen to somebody else, is looking at what's happening to Professor Ford. And, that would scare them away.
They don't want to mess up their lives.
But there's strength in numbers.
There's strength in numbers, but I think that,
not in Trump's case. Not in Trump's case. There's been 19 women who've accused him of sexual assault.
But how has it affected
Where's
those
the strength in numbers there?
But I mean, how has it affected them? Those 19 women that came forward, they have lives, and they're probably who's thinking about them today. I think Alex was making a point that they're seeing what's happening to Miss Ford, and they don't want to come forward because they don't want their life to be topsy-turvy, all thrown up.
Yeah, so, I mean, they don't want to see their lives thrown asunder. And most, I think it's very brave of Professor Ford to come forward. Initially, she didn't want to.
No.
And I don't know who convinced her, the shrink, or did she just decide that it would be a great thing, an important thing for her to say this?
Her name got leaked somehow so that people knew who she was.
Yeah, from Anna Issue's office.
That's when she decided that she might as well come forward.
Yeah.
She went to Anna Issue's office and made the assertion, and someone in that office did the leaking.
Wow. Well,
it's terrible. It is terrible that they did that to her, but I'm glad that she came forward.
But I think her demands now that she have a proper setting in which to tell her story, and that it not be a hostile situation. Because all you have to do is go back and look at the video of Anita Hill and just the grilling they gave her. And by the way, one of the people jumping on her was Joe Biden. So we got to make Biden one of the bad guys in that case. But he has since said that's one of the worst things I ever did in my career.
And so was Orrin Hatch.
Orrin Hatch was on there, and one other. I'm trying to remember the other person. And they're still there. Do you realize that was in, when was it?
1991.
1991. The Grassley's been on that committee since 1991?
Yeah, just old fucking douchebags.
And Orrin Hatch has been on there since then?
Yeah.
The other day I was talking with my wife. I don't know if my ex-wife, Ronnie. And she said, how do you feel? Do you feel there should be a cutoff age for people to be president or to be in politics?
Yeah.
And I said, yes. And she says, then you're ageist. And I said, well, no, I'm not. I'm 78 going on 79. And I realize the minimal, the abilities that I have to the abilities I had 20 years ago, and the strength that I have, and so on. And to be a president, takes a lot of energy. Takes a lot of energy, and if you're going to do it completely, you've got to, So we were arguing back and forth about this. What do you think, Jeff? I mean, you're closer to my age. Do you really think that we should give Grassley should still be a senator and you can see him on that panel just doddering around,
Well, there's different kind of jobs. Being president, it's a demanding job. Whether you're Trump or not, it should be a demanding job. And I think that, let's say it, at his age, he's a little too old for that job.
Yeah.
And just forget about how much you like Obama. He was a young guy at that time as president.
So was Clinton, by the way.
Yeah.
And Bush wasn't an old fogey either. I mean, this guy is the oldest.
First Roosevelt. How old was he? He was, I think, in his.
Roosevelt died in his. He died, I think, at 62, 63. Yeah.
Yes. Was that young?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jeez.
He looked terrible.
And he had been all over the world. He had done all kinds of crazy things. And he also, I think,
he had a bad heart. And in those days, they didn't do things like, zipper jobs and things like that. They just didn't have that kind of surgery back in those days. I think Roosevelt probably would have lived a lot longer had he had the medicine we have today. Yes, Phil.
I always remember.
What happened to you?
Let me just say one.
Well, go ahead. Finish.
Let me just finish this. When I was a young guy, and I mean like maybe 8 years old or 6 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember my doctor died. My doctor was 42 years old.
Right.
And he died. And you know what? Most of them died at those ages. A lot of people. For no reason other than that was the technology that people had.
Yeah.
They didn't have open heart surgery at that time.
Roosevelt would have lived a lot longer.
Sure.
A lot longer.
I'm here for technology that exists today.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, has existed for the last 40 years for me.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky about that.
And we're very lucky that it has worked for you because we know you and you're a friend on this program, Yes,
well,
Phil.
God must punish because as we were arguing, the fuse blew, the circuit breaker blew. She had every appliance, every air conditioner, everything plugged into everything. And it blew, and then, but it wasn't the area. It was just in this apartment.
Yeah, well, of course.
So it was the hand of God, Phil.
Yeah, the hand of God came down because I was trying to protect some Catholic boy.
Moses was after you on that one.
The one that will always blow the fuse is the microwave.
Yeah, and that's what it was.
Yeah, you can turn your coffee maker on, things like that, no problem. When it comes to the microwave, goodbye. See you later.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
that's why most jurisdictions require a microwave oven to have its own circuit breaker.
Really?
This building was built probably in the 70s or the 80s, and I am not 100% sure how well it's wired. But I mean, it's a luxury building.
This building is wired terribly. I had the air conditioner in the other room on the same time I had this one on, and I don't know what else went on. I think I just had one other thing turned on, like computer in the second room, and all of a sudden the lights went out. This was after my show was over with. The lights just went out, and luckily the fuse at the fuse box, the switch went. It wasn't down in the basement, which is usually the problem.
Yeah, I have a big GPS that UPS kept the computer on, the screen, everything was on except the internet. And
right.
So
you better plug that into there too.
Yeah. Well, unbelievable. So
hey, one thing I got to say about all this, and I've been watching this for decades, And I got to admire the Republicans for this. They know how to fight. The Democrats do not know how to fight. They take punch after punch after punch. They don't know how to play hardball. They don't even know the concept.
You're right. You're right.
I don't think it's
this
a matter of just ethics.
This isn't a political judgment that I'm making. But you're right, because there's a mentality that Democrats have about themselves, and an image that they have of themselves as being just and right and honest and fair and so on.
But it's bullshit.
It may be bullshit, but it's the reason you guys can beat up on us, because you don't have any scruples that way.
Our guys are just as weak and just as unorganized as you guys. The only thing is we got a leader right now, and you don't. You know.
That's a leader?
Yeah. Well, it's more. He seems to rally the troops more than Obama.
No, he doesn't. He allows himself to go into areas where he knows he's going to draw a crowd that's going to cheer him. Although they say lately the crowds are getting a little dismayed by him. They're not as.
I don't know. Where do you hear that?
They're not. A lot of the reporters, both Fox and all of them, say that they at some of these things he goes to and where he speaks, they're not as enthusiastic as they have been in the past. They notice a muted difference in the crowd.
The Democratic governor of North Carolina seemed to like him.
Think about it. Think about what's going on, right? When he was rallying the troops, he hadn't done anything yet. It was all upside for him. Now he's been in power for over a year. People are not seeing big differences in their lives.
Are you kidding me?
People are not seeing big differences in their lives.
The economy is better than it's been in a long time.
That may be
the upper 1%.
Where is the wage
upper
increases?
1%?
Where are the
wage
upper
1%? It's even my business.
Where are the wage increases?
Phil, how many stocks do you have?
I don't have any.
Well, the fact is, then your life isn't any better.
No, but my business depends.
My life's
on,
better. Listen, I love my Vanguard's gone nuts. You know,
my business depends on other people feeling that they have wealth, and then they buy something that doesn't break.
Yeah, except wages are not going up now, or with this trade war with China. It'll be the next 20 years. Prices are going to be.
I'm going through that right now. On the 24th, much of the things that are imported from China that I carry, which is mostly pre-finished hardwood and some of this luxury vinyl plank, which is some of the hottest selling stuff in the market right now, is mainly made in China, and it's going to go up in price. But what I'm hoping is that American manufacturers don't raise their prices because the tariffs are allowing them to make a little bit more money. It's like raising the prices during a storm.
Harley Davidson is moving to China. The trade sanctions have hurt this venerable right-wing.
But they're moving to Europe.
They're moving to Europe. John. They're moving to Europe.
Sorry, but the trade sanctions.
Either way, it don't matter. Either way, they're moving out of the U.S.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there was nothing more American than a Harley Davidson.
That's right.
That used to be the case.
Yeah.
I got one.
Sell it now, Phil.
Yeah.
Maybe
it'll be worth
Republic. It'll be worth nothing once it's. It'll probably be worth more because the American bikes will be worth more than what they're building outside the country.
They might be better.
Yeah.
But, the thing is, if you've ever owned a motorcycle, it used to be that Harley Davidson was like De Beers. They would only put out a limited number of them, and it would keep the price high. And you could sell a used one for as much or more than you could sell a new one because people didn't have to wait if they bought a used one.
Right.
Now, they've built so many, it depreciates so much, it's near worthless. And that's why I won't sell it, because I'm not going to get anything for it, so I might as well keep it.
Yeah. But so far as the economy is concerned, the stock market to me is not an indicator of a good or bad economy. It's an indicator that a bunch of people are making money who invest in stocks, and that's only a minor amount of Americans who do that.
I look at the amount of people that come through my door and.
Will you let me finish with what I was saying, Phil? We heard you say that already.
Oh, I heard you say the thing about stocks too.
No, I said that a few nights ago. I didn't say it just now.
Oh, okay, it was good enough.
But the fact is that you can't say the economy's great because of the stock market going up. That's the world's biggest gambling game, okay? However, Unemployment, yeah, but it's not it's about as low as it was under Obama.
It's gig jobs too. It's shit jobs.
Yeah.
Oh, it's shovel-ready jobs, and if they would build the wall, we'd have more shovel-ready jobs.
Yeah, or if
Well,
maybe,
Mexico
if we hear any more,
You talk about bullshit.
if we hear any more
That's
bullshit,
such bullshit because the wall exists over 80% of the border already.
If we hear any more of Trump's bullshit, that will be a shovel-ready job.
Well, meanwhile, he's going to appoint two, not one, but two appointees to the Supreme Court. He's appointed a dozen judges in the appellate court. He has gotten the largest tax breaks for people and business since Reagan. Why
don't you ask an average American whether they're seeing that in their paycheck?
Well, they saw $2,000 more.
No, they didn't. No, they haven't.
Average person maybe $800.
Well, that's better than paying more because the Democrats want to raise your taxes.
Oh, that's the old line.
Yeah.
They want to raise your taxes. Hallelujah.
Yeah, but they'd like to improve your schools, and they'd like to keep the national parks, and they'd like to not.
Do you think throwing more?
In other words, they want if you're going to pay a little. I don't mind paying more for my taxes if I get something for it, but when I don't get anything for it, fuck them.
Look, do you think that throwing more money at schools is going to get better grades? We've been throwing more money at public schools for 60 years, and we have the worst.
Hey, when I was growing up, we were funded very nicely, and I had a great education from those schools.
That isn't the case anymore. When you were growing up, Benjamin Franklin was still in charge of the school system.
He never was in charge of the school system.
Yeah, he was the one that did the libraries and public schools.
Did he do public schools? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Should
I believe that, folks, or should I go to Wikipedia to find out
Go to
Benjamin
Wikipedia.
Franklin?
Benjamin Franklin.
Okay, Benjamin Franklin Public Schools. Okay, here we go.
He also did the Coast Guard, and I think he did the post office.
Ben Franklin, and what were we talking about? Ben Franklin.
I said that Ben Franklin.
Public schools.
Public schools.
Okay.
I thought it was Betsy DeVos.
Yeah, it could have been.
She's just carrying the torch now.
It was Betsy DeRoss.
Betsy DeRoss. That's what
she sewed the flag.
Well, it just says Franklin Public Schools. Ben Franklin Public Schools.
Ben Franklin.
Well, there's a Ben Franklin High School.
No.
It's all about Benjamin Franklin High Schools. There's nothing.
Okay, you got to ask it differently, and I'm trying to think of how you'd ask it to, who was Ben Franklin responsible for public schools in this country?
Creation of.
Yeah. A public school system. I know, and he also did the libraries, the Coast Guard, post office.
I don't think there was a Coast Guard back then.
Yeah, in 1776, the Coast Guard.
There was a Coast Guard?
Yeah. If you look at their medallion.
I can't find anything. I can't find it. All I find is Benjamin Franklin High School.
Well, then it must be true.
Here comes Jack.
All right.
Jack?
Yes, that's me.
Yeah.
Back here with you. You know, I love the fact that Phil gives you just enough information to spread ignorance. But
what do you think? I'm a Democrat?
No, I think you're a fascist, but we'll talk about religion later.
Okay.
But look, your Reagan tax break. Now, don't forget, my wife is an accountant. She worked for the IRS during the 80s under Reagan, and the Reagan tax cut was the biggest boondoggle as far as the average American was concerned. It raised our taxes. And if you want to talk about real growth, not bullshit growth, like with the stock market, as Alex pointed out, you got to go back to when we had 75, 80, 90% tax rates so that guys like you had to invest in your businesses.
then you had all these loopholes, and you didn't have to pay any taxes.
Now, first of
Hey,
all, am I
you
right?
want to listen to a fascist?
No.
I'm going to give you some fascism.
All right, and I'm going to give you some communism back.
Every one of
Right now, I'm just absolutely praying for a clogged artery here.
artery.
We're going to have a mass series of strokes on this show.
Hey, Jack. Every tax bracket. Don't talk over me for a second. Every tax.
Come on, I know you got it in you. I know you're capable of doing it. Quit sitting there like some kind of pious saint. Give it to me.
All right. Every tax bracket has been lowered under Trump. Every single one of them.
Does not matter. Does it?
Hey, that's how you lower taxes.
Does it put any more money into the
because you're paying less tax.
And
it doesn't put money in the Democrats' coffers because most of them are on the public dole.
Hey, all right. You say that? Prove it. Show me the numbers.
Are you on Social Security?
Yes.
All right.
But also,
Alex, you're on Social Security?
But also,
Jeff, you're on Social Security?
That has nothing to do with the budget. It has nothing to do with the budget, Phil.
Hey, if I'm going to be called a fascist, I'm going to
Wait a minute. Social Security has nothing to do with the budget, Phil.
I know. I'm giving you a hard time.
Social Security is an insurance plan. I paid into it for my mother to get her Social Security.
It is. It is, as my ex-wife calls it, and it's the proper way of calling it, earned benefits.
Right.
God bless FDR and Lyndon Johnson for Medicare.
Yep.
I'm about to meet the maximum right now, and I got the rest of the year I don't have to pay FICA anymore. And you know what? That's ridiculous. I don't want to pay more taxes, but we should be funding Social Security, and everybody should pay every paycheck.
Remove the cap.
Yeah, remove the cap.
Get rid of the underground economy that we've got coming over here that works and doesn't pay taxes.
Which underground economy are you talking about?
What about I'm talking about people that work and work for cash and don't pay their taxes.
Who pays that cash?
Who pays that cash? It's paid by people that don't want to pay workers' comp and don't want to do the right thing.
So rather than letting
right. So really,
they all vote Democratic.
Really, what you're doing, what you're doing is you're blaming the sick person rather than the plague itself.
No, I'm not. How am I blaming the sick person?
Because the guy comes over. He simply wants to earn a living. Somebody wants to pay him off the book so he doesn't have to pay taxes to the government. Who made that whole thing possible? It's not the guy who wants the job. It's the guy who's giving the job and making it available to him.
The guy who wants the job has an obligation to pay his
taxes. No, he doesn't.
So the guy who pays him, except for the workers' comp scam, the guy who pays that guy who's standing in front of Home Depot, that Home Depot guy is not paying his taxes.
I wasn't aware that workman's comp
is a
scam.
No, it's if the guy is not paying his workers.
I don't know what this even has to do with Social Security or whatever. All of a sudden, you pulled this out of your ass. It's a diverting tactic.
All you guys are on the government dole.
Fuck you, Phil. To begin with, Phil, I want to just inform you that the money that I paid into Social Security all these years, I will never see him back in full because I always paid the max every year. Okay. Wait a minute. Let me finish, Phil. Let me finish. No, it wasn't $7,000. It's 992, I think, 9,200. Something like that. Yeah. Anyway, I paid it all these years, so I've paid into that. And so far as Medicare is concerned, I pay $110 a month to Medicare out of my Social Security to pay for Medicare. So fuck you, Phil. I'm not on the public dole. I'm not on the public dole. I'm not on the public dole bullshit.
It's subsidized medical care, subsidized by the public.
Subsidized military program.
Yeah, that's right.
What about the subsidized? What about the subsidized police department or the subsidized fire department?
The government is supposed to supply the military. That's what they're there for. That's why our taxes are being paid.
Wait a minute.
All this other stuff is bullshit.
The goddamn minute. We agreed upon this stuff because the people that pass those legislation measures are people that we sent to Washington to bring home the pork for us. And don't
Phil, do we need... Listen, Phil, listen to me. Phil, listen to me. Do you need to pay, and is it worth for our mutual protection, 51 cents out of every dollar you pay in taxes to go to the military?
Yeah.
I mean, when no other country goes higher than 10% of income.
That has been made fat by the Democrats over the last 50, 60 years. And what they've been doing is they wanted bases in their backyard. They wanted all of these things.
And Republicans didn't want the same damn thing. I tell you,
who was in charge? Who was in charge of the Congress for 50 years?
Got nothing to do with it today, brother. We're talking
50 years. Well, they set the precedent.
Look, Phil.
Well, then why isn't Trump lowering the amount of money that the military is getting rather than raising it?
Because
blah 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 blah. Here we come. Here comes the bullshit.
We got guys with nuclear arms.
Nuclear? And they have nuclear.
In North Korea.
And if Trump had a set of balls on him, he'd say, "I don't need a military. I'll your ass personally."
Alex is standing on his ball.
Hey, look, pal.
I have some.
And I use that term advisedly. Yeah. Look, we spend more on our military than the next 10 nations combined. Who the hell are we afraid of?
And that includes Russia, by the way.
We're afraid of everybody that wants our shit. Why are these other countries, the Canadians, for instance?
What do we have that they really want? You tell me one damn.
We got natural resources. We have freedom. We have the right to speak our mind.
What kind of freedom?
They don't want that. They want
You have freedom, Phil.
We have the right to speak our mind unless Google or Facebook or Twitter says no.
Yeah, run by Dems.
Hey. Oh, yeah. Right. And Wall Street is controlled.
I've heard a long time, Phil.
And Wall Street is controlled by you Republicans, is it not?
No, it's controlled by the Jews. Haven't you heard that?
Well, not the Jews that I know, because most of you guys are broke like I am.
I understand.
No, I never knew a lot. A lot of Jews I knew never had anything to do with being in the stock business. You know, that's a very white bread Christian group of guys down there.
Hey, just look at the Dulles brothers. They're the ones that set all this up, and they're Roman Catholics again. So we get back to the toxic Roman Catholic boy syndrome.
Yeah.
But Phil, in all honesty, name me one thing over the last 40 years that the Republican Party has done for the average working American. One thing.
Well, one thing I like is they eliminated the draft in 1972.
Which was a mistake because it led to using our military for every little bullshit adventure we could come up with.
That's right.
Well, these are people that want to be there. And
what you're doing is the military actually uses and takes advantage of poor people who want to get out of those positions and using them for cannon fodder.
Yep. Yeah. It's another form of welfare. It's government welfare.
Yeah, it's right.
I don't know what else to do with my life. I got out of high school. I don't know what to do. Yeah. I don't know what to do. I'm going to go into the military because I have no direction.
And when they come out, unless they're criminals, they come out as upstanding citizens who have been given.
Oh, really?
That's
How come all these guys that go into post offices and office buildings and start shooting the place up all happen to be in the military and learned how to use those rifles?
Not all of them.
There's something like 18 suicides a day among veterans, so that's got to tell you something.
And that's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah,
that's
very
because
much
our government didn't do what it was necessary to support our military. But
well, when Democrats advanced plans to improve veteran services, it was always the fucking Republicans that vetoed those.
Well, at least two of them a day commit suicide listening to Phil's drivel.
We'll see about that. We're seeing how he treats even vets who are dead, like the whole controversy with when he was a candidate. The way he talked about the family of the Gold Star family, and what he said about McCain.
And also let's add this one. Let's add this one, Phil, about Trump. He's a fucking coward. He wouldn't serve in the military. Hell, I served in the military.
Did he have a bone spur?
He had a bone spur.
He's the leader of the military now.
Yeah. Phil, don't change the subject. He was a fucking coward. He didn't serve when he should have, because I think was in the middle of the Vietnam War.
Like another famous Republican dirtbag AWOL, silver spoon piece of shit. George W. Bush. Little piece of lying shit.
Hey, but I didn't serve either.
All right, then shut
the fuck up.
Well, I put in 20 years as a cop.
No, shut the fuck up. You were a rent-a-cop. You were not a real cop. You were not a real cop.
No,
you were a hobby cop.
Wait a minute. You got to respect Phil for his service.
No, I don't. Because he was a fucking cop.
Hey, Phil, Alex,
it's good enough to almost arrest him, John.
A long time, and even I had to admit they took me kicking and screaming to a recruiting office because I ran out of college deferments when I got out of school.
Yeah.
So I wound up doing military time, despite my best efforts. And as far as you think that these kids that are going into this all-volunteer army are going there because they don't have any better options, they're going there because they ain't got no options at all. Every kid that I know that has served, with the exception of one, over the last 20 years, said, I got to do this because there's no jobs out here.
Then you got to start hanging out with a better class of people, because there's a lot of people that join the military because they believe in it as a career.
Hey, let me tell you a little story. One of my tile clients is a psychologist, and she got a call from the Army a few years ago saying, could you come out to the Honolulu, where our treatment hospital is for post-traumatic stress? And because the Army couldn't handle the load coming in from Iraq and Afghanistan. And she sat down, and we had a cup of coffee during my lunch break on her house when I was working. And she said, John, I can't tell you what I heard, but I'll tell you what I did. After a session, I'd walk around the grounds with the palm trees, just shedding buckets of tears. And I think that has got to say something,
what did she say? What caused her to have that emotion?
Oh yeah, listening to how what these guys went through and what they had to do, and the effect it had on them. And,
that was a sacrifice.
Well, a stupid one. For foolish wars that we were lied into.
Yeah, I mean, this whole idea that they were sacrificing is gilding the lily and trying to make the real truth not be heard, and that is the fact that these people were thrown into harm's way.
Well,
okay, unnecessarily. Vietnam
20/20 hindsight
was a perfect example. Vietnam was a perfect example of putting these people in harm's way. Oops, I just lost everybody's picture here. Let me get back here and get everybody. Whoops, I got a problem there too. What is this?
Fuse go out?
What? No, I don't worry. We'll be okay, folks.
Hey, I almost blew a fuse, or I did blow a fuse. I blew a fuse when we were talking.
No, there we go. There we go. I got everything right now. Okay.
All right.
Anyway, hey, listen, that's it for tonight. We got to go. We got to do some. Oh, we got to do Jack's
all
show.
You guys, and you too, Vern.
Jack's got a show right after us called The Intersection. I want all of you to do a good wave goodbye to everybody. A very great wave goodbye. Goodbye to Phil. Goodbye to Mr. Perulas. Goodbye to Rob. Goodbye. Oh, Vernon, we love having you here. And same thing with you, Jeff. All of you. Thanks for being here. Bye. That's our citizens panel for tonight. I'm Alex Bennett. Let me just hang up on him here. Rudely so. So we can get the phone lines available for the next program, which is The Intersection with Jack Bishop, who you just heard a few minutes ago. And then that'll be followed by Connections at 1 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Tomorrow night, 9:30, Damian Chaplin in the Exchange. And then we'll be right back here at 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time with another edition of The Ramble. Same time, same station and life. And in the meantime, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? All right, okay? All right.